Good morning, Sweden, and selamat sore to Indonesia. This day of SISP is dedicated to SDG 11 and sustainable transportation systems. Here, our two countries have collaborated for several years, and there are two key projects of transportation that we will look closer at today. The first of these two is about airports, and it is a project that aims to become a catalyst for economic growth and tourism development in remote areas of Indonesia. We will introduce a groundbreaking technology to connect and manage small airport control towers remotely from a central control station. This solution is developed by Saab, and it is enabled through connectivity solutions from Ericsson. So today, these companies will join hands with Bappenas, DGCA at Ministry of Transport, and AirNav to assess the benefits this technology can bring to Indonesia and discuss the next steps to implement. The second project is connected to bus transportation systems in Jakarta and other large cities in Indonesia. The Indonesian government has set an ambitious agenda to shift these systems to a fully electrical model, starting them with the capital of Jakarta and its bus network of 10,000 units. Sweden is dedicated to support in making this vision a reality. And today, stakeholders from Indonesia will work together with Swedish companies and industry experts to explore how to make the most out of that commitment. Before we move to the specifics of these projects, though, I would like to give the word to both countries' governments to set the scene for this Transportation Day of SISP 2021. Starting them with Ambassador Marina Berg. Marina, you have the word.
Excellencies, business leaders, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, friends. We are living amid climate change. Global warming is increasing and is no longer a distant problem for future generations. It affects all of us living now, and we need to tackle it as the crisis it is, whether it be in Indonesia or in Sweden, Jakarta or Stockholm. The good thing is that we can do something about the climate crisis, and every step we take to reduce our emissions mitigates the negative impact on societies and ecosystems. To reduce our emissions, we need to shift to sustainable biofuels and to renewable electricity. A rapid electrification of the transport system is crucial and should be combined with a transition to sustainable renewable fuels along with increased transport efficiency. In a transport-efficient society, the most suitable mode for transport is used for every specific transport. Each mode of transport is used as efficiently as possible, and unnecessary transports are avoided. Luckily, this is not only feasible in a relatively short term, but in fact, the transition also creates new business opportunities and new jobs. Industry themselves are providing new solutions at a fast pace, and we can see this in all major cities, including in Jakarta. With the Memorandum of Understanding within transport, as well as during SISP last year, we took steps to engage further in the ambitious plans for the electrification of the Jakarta bus system. We have now engaged to see how Swedish solutions and know-how can make a difference, for instance, through electric buses from Scania, as well as through supporting infrastructure such as Hitachi ABB's charging stations. I am very glad that we this very day are continuing this dialogue with Indonesian counterparts to see how we can match needs with offers. Sweden is ready to increase the cooperation, and I look forward to the conclusions of this year's SISP. I wish you all a great success in networking and the forming of new business collaborations within smart transportation. Thank you for your attention, thank you for attending, and thank you all for your efforts to strengthen the relations between Indonesia and Sweden.
And now, it is my great pleasure to introduce, from the Indonesian Coordinating Ministry for Maritime and Investment Affairs, the Deputy for Infrastructure and Transportation Coordination, Mr. Ayodhia Kalake. Pak, you have the word.
Marina.
Pak Kalake, I believe you're still muted.
Right. Her Excellency Ms. Marina Berg, Ambassador of Sweden to the Republic of Indonesia. Her Excellency Ms. Maria Gelin, Deputy Director General, Minister of Infrastructure, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is really an honor for me to share this special occasion with all of you. I think we have a common view that smart transportation has become an area that we need to handle seriously. In the digitalization and globalization era, transportation modes that can support people's seamless mobility has become an utmost importance. Its urgency and demand for it has increased significantly. And Indonesia is the fourth most populous country with more than 270 million people whose mobility requires transportation. Indonesia is also Indonesia is also one of the largest archipelagic countries in the world, with 17,504 islands, and hence increasing the variety of complexity of transportation mode needed. I have to recall that Indonesia and Sweden signed a memorandum of understanding on May 22nd, 2017, concerning the cooperation in transport sector. Both countries are focusing on smart and green transportation, especially for Jakarta, which involve cooperation between PT Jakarta and Scania and Volvo. Cooperation can be further expanded into electrical buses with sustainable energy. In the air transportation area, Indonesia currently has 251 airports and plan to establish 50 more airports. Out of the existing 251 airports, 217 are domestic airports, while 34 are international airports. I also recall that several months ago, we were exploring the opportunity in remote tower center, digital tower technology, especially for international airport and for small airport in rural areas. Among all airports in Indonesia, the crown jewel of Indonesian airport is Soekarno-Hatta International Airport. It has 3 terminals already and plan to expand its wings to Terminal 4. Approximately, it would raise equity value worth of $320 million US dollar. The transaction and partnership will be assisted through Indonesian Sovereign Wealth Fund. Other than Soekarno-Hatta, we also have Igusti Ngurah Rai, the airport of Bali, and also Kuala Namu Airport, International Airport in Medan. These airports are currently operating and open for further expansion due to the high traffic in Bali and Medan. And with respect of sea transportation, Indonesia also invests investment in Pelindo, or Pelabuhan Indonesia, the Indonesian port company, as the largest container traffic terminal in the world. Pelindo 1 to 4 has been merged and currently operating under one holding to ensure management effectiveness and transparency. And currently, Pelindo is in process of establishing a benchmark of digital and smart port in Tanjung Priok, which will then replicate throughout all ports managed and operated by Pelindo. The goal is that all ports will become smart port, which then supports smart transportation. There are 3 other major ports that can have further expansion. First, Port of Belawan, the highest traffic in Sumatra. It is located right in the busiest Strait of Malacca. Port of Kuala Tanjung, which will be integrated to the industrial estate, and Teluk Lamong, which has applied green port principles. With the increasing number of ports, the connectivity and distribution of goods will also be enhanced. In Jakarta, the capital, several important infrastructures, including MRT and LRT, are key fundamentals, which we developed as an initial milestone for smart transportation. Following the MRT and LRT, transit-oriented development will be in place to support smart mobility and seamless mobility concepts. Excellency, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia has 2 modern trains that carry passengers over short distance. They are the light rail transit, or LRT, and the mass rapid transit, MRT, which were built a few years ago. In first phase of MRT covering a 16-kilometer route, which includes 10 kilometers of elevated lines and 6 kilometers of underground, with 7 elevated stations and 6 underground stations. This transportation mode operates within Jakarta its surrounding cities such as Bekasi, Bogor, and Depok. In the area of road transportation, we can observe the vehicle demographic figures that are predicted to continuously increasing. Motorcycle year-on-year growth is about 11%, and number of passenger car grow approximately 8% each year. Growth of Indonesian motorcycle are approximately 11% in 2018. Our motorcycle reaches 120.1 million. With the affordability and the climate of Indonesia that is relatively hot and humid, it becomes the most suitable and faster vehicle to move around. Growth of passenger vehicle year on year are approximately 8%, with number of cars in 2018 reached 16 million. With the increase of car industry in Indonesia and more affordable car, this number are predicted to keep increasing. To pivot from conventional transportation mode to smart and more ecologically friendly transportation, Indonesia has decided to develop the battery electric vehicle and its supporting industry value chain. Especially for EV, there will be new incentives to support our goals in number of electric vehicles, not just to increase our economy, but also for the environment. The government of Indonesia is very keen to develop the battery electric vehicle industry in Indonesia, and Presidential Decree number 55 year 2019 has been issued to accelerate development of this technology. The growth of electric vehicle will also parallel with increase of number of electricity needed to support the growth. Indonesia has started to move cleaner energy, but the potential is still abundant. Total potential from renewable energy sources are approximately 418 gigawatt, while their installed capacity have only reached 10 gigawatt or 2.5% of the potential. Indonesia has the advantages of metal resources to develop battery components, including nickel and cobalt. Indonesia has the highest nickel reserve for 21 million metric ton, followed by Australia, Brazil, and Russia. Indonesia has also cobalt reserve for 0.6 million metric ton, copper for 28 million metric ton, and 1.2 billion dry ton of bauxite. Excellency, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, the government of Indonesia is very keen to learn from your experience to develop the smart transportation technology and invite the participation of your country automotive industry in developing or investing in battery electric vehicle technology in Indonesia. And this event is a very important forum, not only to exchange our views, but also to strengthen the bridge of partnership that has been built by two governments of Indonesia and Sweden. In this opportunity, please allow me to express my highest appreciation to the Embassy of Sweden in Jakarta for organizing this important event. It is my first hope that all participants will enjoy the fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalake, for joining us today and for sharing your views on the way forward for Indonesia's infrastructure and transportation development. Indeed, a very impressive roadmap. Our second speaker is from the Swedish Ministry of Infrastructure, and it is the Director General and Head of Division Transport Markets, Mrs. Maria Gelin. Maria, you have the word.
Thank you, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's also an honor for me to join you here today for the second Sweden-Indonesian Sustainability Partnership Week. This week is a unique opportunity to explore new business and partnership opportunities and to exchange ideas and concerns about challenges meeting us in the world today. Mr. Eneroth, Minister of Infrastructure in Sweden, sends his regards and regret he's not able to be here today. The pandemic has reminded us of the importance of working together in partnership to tackle global challenges and find green solutions. Worldwide, the urbanization, digitalization, and environmental challenges demand new solutions for smart transportation and for livable cities. I'm proud to say that Swedish companies have a long-standing presence in Indonesia and have contributed to economic growth, job generation, and transfer of know-how through their investments. Swedish companies not only bring sustainable approaches and commitments, but also transparency, corporate responsibility, and the promotion of social dialogue. Currently, there are some 80 Swedish-related companies present in Indonesia, which supports hundreds of thousands of jobs. With the Memorandum of Understanding within transport, we have close collaboration within urban mobility, railway, aviation, and waste to energy. With all the positive gains of Indonesia's impressive economic growth, there are also long-term challenges. Fast urbanization and increased energy use put stress on the climate and the environment. The cooperation that Indonesia and Sweden have developed in later years provides the necessary tools for us to solve these challenges. Sweden holds an internationally strong position in the transport sector, particularly through Swedish companies with competitive, sustainable solutions. Several projects focusing on developing sustainable infrastructure have been successfully accomplished in Indonesia thanks to close collaboration between our countries and Indonesian and Swedish companies. I would like to take this opportunity to share experiences and give some examples from Sweden in the field of electrification and sustainable urban mobility. To begin with, Sweden has very ambitious climate goals. Our national target is a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from domestic transport by 70% in 2030 compared to the year 2010. By 2045, there should be no net greenhouse emissions for Sweden as a whole. For transport, that means zero emissions by 2045. Electrification is one key element in reaching our goals. Electrifying our cars, buses, and trucks will be key in improving air quality in our cities and enabling the transition into a fossil-free welfare society. In order to make this transition into electrification, it's important to ensure that our energy system, meaning the grids, as well as the capacity of the energy system and the fossil-free energy production, is well coordinated with the electrification of the transport system. Therefore, the government is developing an electrification strategy that points to measures needed to accelerate electrification of all modes of transport. To support the electrification process, the government has set up an advisory commission for electrification to speed up the electrification of the transport sector. The commission consists of 16 members of business, the public sector, and the research community, and is chaired by the Minister of Infrastructure. The mandate covers both passenger and freight transport within all modes of transport. Another important measure is that the government has commissioned the Swedish Transport Administration to begin planning for the expansion of approximately 3,000 kilometers of electric road along the state road network. The Swedish Transport Administration will also analyze the need for charging infrastructure for fast charging of heavy vehicles along major roads. This also affects the urban areas. Furthermore, a special investigator has been tasked to analyze and to propose how regulation of electric roads can be designed and how operations and maintenance of those roads can be financed. The starting point is that the road operator is responsible for the construction, operation, and maintenance of the infrastructure for the electric roads. Additionally, the cost operation and maintenance of the infrastructure shall be financed in whole or in part through fees from those who use electricity on the electric roads. I would like to share another example from Sweden, relevant for urban future mobility. Sweden is currently working towards implementation of geofencing. At the moment, we are looking into possible legal solutions to make this happen. Geofencing, where connected vehicles within a zone can be limited or controlled to some extent, enables both cities and countryside to use more green solutions. Several projects have already been implemented in Sweden. For example, in Sweden's second largest city, Gothenburg, the technology is being used on electric and hybrid buses. On some routes, buses switch to electric operation and speed are reduced. This use of technology gives the right speed, as well as quieter and pollution-free public transport. So, what can we do in the future together? Sweden is world leading in many innovation areas, and particularly in the field of transport and logistics. Sweden has produced smart products and services over the years, and the government wants to stimulate and strengthen this development so it can continue and grow for the future. The development of connected and automated driving is a perfect example of how technology may contribute to meet these challenges. Smart mobility can help us to meet the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Climate Agreement, and at the same time increase efficiency and safety in the transport system. The topics covered here this week are all areas where Swedish companies have much to contribute, and I'm certain that the Sweden-Indonesia Sustainability Partnership Week will reveal new and exciting possibilities for promising cooperation and partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. I do have a couple of follow-up questions for you. A term that is often mentioned is international collaboration to meet the demands of the future. From your perspective, what does that mean?
Well, I think the biggest challenge we have today in the transport sector is, of course, the climate change and the transition into fossil-free solutions. I think we must work together to solve the challenge through cooperation, innovation, and trade. So the future transport is smart, I think, digital, fossil-free, and secure, and adapted to the needs of both women and men.
Okay, good. One topic that you mentioned here was the electrification of transport systems. And I think this is an area that is of great interest in Indonesia, perhaps particularly in Jakarta, where the electrification of public transport systems is very much in focus. So what is the Swedish view on the future of transport, and what can be shared from the Swedish experience?
I think there are many good examples. I mentioned, for instance, the projects in Gothenburg, the second largest city in Sweden. They've had several leading projects within electromobility that could be interesting to look into. And the city, as I understand it, has already made significant progress in electrifying public transport, these last mile deliveries, as well as waste transports. And I think the goal for the city is to have the whole transport system to be electrified by 2030. So that's quite a high vision. And if you want to have other example, I think a very good way of discovering that is through Smart City Sweden's website, where Gothenburg example, as well as other projects, example of other projects can be looked into. So that's, I think, is a very good example of things to be explored and know-how to be shared.
And we'll make sure to share that link to the Smart City Sweden website to the audience here. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Maria, and for sharing your perspectives and experiences from Sweden. This then concludes our plenary session today. And when we come back, we will discuss a truly high-tech airport solution that has the potential to kickstart a new area of growth for the remote islands in Indonesia's archipelago. So stay with us. We will be back shortly. Thank you.
When we started to work with this digital tower over 10 years ago, we soon realized that most of the questions you got was not about the technical only, it was about the operational aspects of safety. How will the controller look at that? How will the pilots think about digital tower? And will this be approved by the regulator and so forth? By combining then the knowledge of LFE and the operational understanding with the technical outstanding sort of piece of technology, you merge them together and create the whole package. I think the main reason of choosing a digital tower solution is that you can decouple the physical tower from the services you're going to provide, and by that enable another way of developing the airport. You can centralize the air traffic services and provide that, having more airports working together or being a service from one piece, and by that creating efficiency and redundancy. If you take a look into the future, this digital transformation, it probably means that there will be no physical towers in the old way we've seen it being built after 2020 or something like that. It will mean that you will enable this service to transform into another way of working, where the controllers, from being isolated in a tower, now work together and then can share their experience, which probably mean improved safety, and they will also enable us to do other services maybe from the same center. This centralization will open up a new world of opportunities.
Det är ett väldigt intressant projekt utifrån flera perspektiv. Om man börjar med det faktum att klimatförändring är den största utmaningen i Sverige när det gäller transporter. Och transporter måste vi hitta nya lösningar. Det pågår en stor omställning inom hela transportsektorn. Det pågår en stor omställning inom energisektorn, och här kan vi få den synergierna på plats som verkligen visar sig i det här projektet.
Här har vi Bilsta kraftverk. Det är ett av de 3 kraftverken som Jämtkraft har gjort i Bilstaån. Bilstaån är ju 3,5 kilometer lång. Här har vi gjort 3 omlöp, så kallade förbifarter. Och i Bilstaån så är det nu, man kan säga, hög andel biologisk mångfald i vår elproduktion. Här går fisken, andra akvatiska organismer. Och vi levererar ju då naturligtvis den här elen då till elbussprojektet då i Östersund.
Nej, men det är ju ganska roligt, för att vi har haft under den kallaste perioden i våras så hade vi minus 30 grader, och den varmaste perioden nu i sommar har vi haft plus 30 grader. Och vi har ju inte haft några problem med våra elbussar, utan de har ju gått i ur och skur, om man säger så. Nej, men det är som jag säger, vi är imponerade. Det har vi alltid varit över Scanias sätt att ta sig fram. Det har flyttat på bra. Vi har haft en underbar övergång med förare som har varit jätteintresserade, som har verkligen satt sig in i det här projektet och vill att det ska fungera på ett bra sätt. Och vi är jättenöjda med den satsning som har varit.
Ja, de flesta jag har pratat med, de tycker att det är riktigt skönt att åka i dem. Det är tyst och så är det behagligt. Jag har till och med haft några som har velat åkt ett varv bara för att få känna på hur det är att åka elbuss. Så att de flesta tycker det är underbart att åka.
Ja, det är ju skillnad på el och el också, därför att fossilproducerad el, exempelvis med kol, har ju då den stora klimatpåverkan kan man säga. Medan då den här elen som vi producerar här i Billston, den är ju då helt förnybar och är också koldioxidneutral.
Det kommer att gå fort och det kommer att behöva gå fort för att vi behöver nå våra klimatmål. Och vi ser också ett efterfrågan som ökar mycket snabbare än vad vi trodde. Städerna vill ha en ren och tyst transport som är effektivt och det är något som vi kan erbjuda tillsammans.
For more than 200 years, electricity has been transforming lives, societies, and businesses around the world. We have been at the forefront of this journey. Our people, our expertise, our technologies have increased access to electricity from major cities to remote places. And now, in the 21st century, the energy landscape continues to evolve, driven by climate targets and changing lifestyles. A massive shift to wind and solar and the electrification of transportation, industries, and buildings. Electricity will be the backbone of the entire energy system. We are evolving the system to be more flexible and resilient, safe and secure, carbon neutral. And we are evolving too. Hitachi Energy.
Ladies and gentlemen, warmly welcome back to this Transportation Day of SISP Week. We will now discuss a groundbreaking Swedish technology for airports that can have a huge impact on the continued development of the remote islands in the Indonesian archipelago. To give you all a clear view on what this looks like, let's watch a video of the remote digital airport towers from Saab.
When we started to work with this digital tower over 10 years ago, we soon realized that most of the questions you got was not about the technical only, it was about the operational aspects of safety. How will the controller look at that? How will the pilots think about digital tower? And will this be approved by the regulator and so forth? By combining then the knowledge of LFE and the operational understanding with the technical outstanding sort of piece of technology, you merge them together and create the whole package. I think the main reason of choosing a digital tower solution is that you can decouple the physical tower from the services you're going to provide, and by that enable another way of developing the airport. You can centralize the air traffic services and provide that, having more airports working together or being a service from one piece, and by that creating efficiency and redundancy. If you take a look into the future, this digital transformation, it probably means that there will be no physical towers in the old way we've seen it being built after 2020 or something like that. It will mean that you will enable this service to transform into another way of working, where the controllers from being isolated in a tower now work together and then can share their experience, which probably mean improved safety, and they will also enable us to do other services maybe from the same center. This centralization will open up a new world of opportunities.
As we can see, this is a modern technology that enables several small airports to be managed together from central stations. With this technology, remote areas of Indonesia can be better connected with more small airports that can increase their operational availability. As a result, tourism can increase further and economic growth can be accelerated in these remote areas. This is a project that Indonesia and Sweden have been working together on for a few years now. In 2019, a feasibility study was done to investigate the technical requirements for Indonesia. That study concluded that remote airport towers is indeed a very good fit for the many islands, and it also outlined how to get proof of concept through a pilot study. Sweden is now working to support with funding for a pilot project to get this set up in 8 selected airports and see the technology working in real life in Indonesia. Our next panel will tell us more about this project and discuss the potential for Indonesia and also outline the next steps to move it forward. This discussion will be led by Wisnu Darjono, who is the president of CSAS, the Center for Strategic and Aviation Studies. CSAS is a think tank organization with a focus on aviation. It is an active partner to the government of Indonesia for development of civil aviation. Wisnu is also a former director of operations of AirNav from 2013 to 18, and he is a part of Avia Lovers, an organization that focuses on aviation in Indonesia, where both active and former senior officials of DGCA are included. Pak Wisnu, you have the word.
Thank you, Pak Erikodar. Honorable Trade Commissioner, Mr. Erikodar, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, selamat siang. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Our discussion this time will focus on Sweden-Indonesia collaboration on the implementation of digital airport tower to increase economic growth, as told by Pak Erikodar. In this discussion, we will discuss benefit of digital tower for Indonesia, the technology, and plan on pilot implementation. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start the discussion, let us listen to the remark from the Director General of Civil Aviation, which will be read by Mr. Sigit Hani Hadiyanto, Director of Air Navigation. Pak Sigit, time is yours.
Wisnu, thank you very much. Allow me to read the remarks from Director General of Civil Aviation of Indonesia, Bapak Hadiyanto. Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, depending on where you are. I am delighted to deliver our warm welcome to all participants, and I surely wish that we are stay healthy during this COVID-19 pandemic. I would also like to extend our appreciation for the collaboration between Embassy of Indonesia in Stockholm and Embassy of Sweden in Jakarta in organizing this Sweden-Indonesia Sustainability Partnership Week. Director General of Civil Aviation of the Republic of Indonesia believe that this forum would be one big effort to further enhance relation between Indonesia and Sweden, particularly in aviation field. Relationship of both countries has a long history, 71 years of diplomatic relation between Indonesia and Sweden. The strengthening bilateral relations between the two countries has reflected in the Memorandum of Understanding between the Government of the Republic of Indonesia and the Government of Sweden concerning the cooperation in the transport sector signed on May 22, 2017. The pandemic has thrown air traffic into an unprecedented crisis. The aviation industry is expected to recover from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. That pointed the need to organize the airspace capacity to accommodate traffic while lowering the industry's greenhouse gas footprint under extreme operational constraint, so that air navigation service provider must implement a change to meet future market demands and explore new opportunities. During the COVID-19 pandemic, multiple aspects of civil aviation in Indonesia has to adapt to sustain and endure this troubling time. Things that in pre-pandemic situation seem as applicable or allowable need to be reconsidered or re-evaluated and replanning to take the current consequences of the pandemic into account. Based on Indonesia regulation and ICAO Global Air Navigation Plan, in order to optimize airspace capacity and enhance flight safety in Indonesia, we have carried out the following matters. Develop strategic plan in seamless air traffic management plan, such as aviation system block upgrade or ASPU implementation, communication, navigation, surveillance, and information management or CNSA modernization, airspace and runway capacity optimization, and engagement in regional Asia-Pacific Forum. To increase the airspace capacity and area navigation performance that will harmonize with the regional and global policy, we have conducted DGCA's strategic master plan in field of airspace management, which is in line with Green Aviation Program, ATFM implementation, and remotely air traffic services. Under ICAO's Global Air Navigation Plan, document 9750 and Aviation Safety Block Upgrade or ASPU Framework Block 128, remotely operated control tower or remote digital tower is to be ready for deployment in time frame of 2019 to 2025. The development of a remote air traffic control concept using modern digital technology brings flexibility, especially on the service hours of regional airports, while improving cost efficiency. This benefit not only airlines but also consumer. For Indonesia, the remote air traffic control project will carry strategic importance as it enables us to ensure efficient functional connectivity between Indonesia, both for domestic and international flight in adjacent countries. ICAO is supporting in providing standard and guidance material for implementation of digital or remote tower, which is ensured that the implementation will be in uniform in safety, integrity, and service level that in line with the existing operational and technical requirement. In terms of implementing regulation, Indonesia will further adopt the standard and guidelines for the material to implementation of a digital tower or remote tower. This concludes my remark. Finally, I wish that Indonesia and Sweden civil aviation stakeholders could benefit from this forum. Let us work together to strengthen our capacity and ensure that we will build back better towards a much healthier and more productive world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Sigit. Ladies and gentlemen, President Joko Widodo recently said during the opening of Kuabang Airport in North Maluku in March 2021 that a new airport will help to build our competitiveness in order for our country to stay ahead with others. For us to know that Indonesia, as a huge country, manages more than 300 airports, large and small, spread through Indonesia, and around 70% of them are airports in remote, developing, and outermost area, where that the responsibility for providing air navigation services within the territory of Indonesia is the Indonesian government, whose implementation is carried out by Airnav Indonesia. Sweden and Indonesia has signed the Memorandum of Understanding on Cooperation in the transport sector during the state visit on 22 May 2017. The MAU emphasizes that need for collaboration, including exchange of information, joint research, and technology transfer. The Digital Tower Center technology was one of the proposed programs from the MOU to continue strengthen bilateral cooperation. Feasibility study of digital tower has been delivered, mainly review with DGCA team on potential implementation of digital tower, which is covering at least 3 aspects: technical, operation, and legal. Labuan Bajo has been visited and identified as pilot location. With the background as I mentioned, we will discuss with us at this time 6 experts in their respective field, who I consider very competent to discuss the opportunity for using digital tower in Indonesia. Our 6 guests are Mr. Sigit Hani Hadiyanto, Director of Air Navigation, DGCA, Ministry of Air Transportation; Ibu Teni Widurianti, Director of Planning of Development Funding, Ministry of National Development Planning, Bappenas; responsible for plan for foreign funding, domestic funding, and Sharia financing project in the medium-term and annual planning document. Ibu Teni Widurianti expertise in project preparation, planning, collaboration with partners to achieve with sustainable development goals. She has been assigned as a focal point several times in various international forums, such as G20, the Global Partnership for Effective Development Cooperation, and the Global Green Growth Institute. Mr. Muhammad Katim, Director of Operation, Airnav Indonesia. Airnav Indonesia is the single air navigation service provider in Indonesia. Mr. Niklas Gustafsson, Vice President, Business Development and Government Affairs, Shop Digital Air Traffic Solution. Mr. Kim Silander, the CEO of Independent Business Group, IBG, did feasibility study of digital tower in 2019. And Mr. Ronnie Normal, Vice President, Network Solution, Ericsson Indonesia. To the discussion past participants, during the discussion, if you have the question for the panelists, please submit them through the chat box by mentioning the name of the panelist who was asked the question. But due to time constraint, Business Sweden team will select the most relevant and interesting question and communicate to the moderator. Some questions could be combined. Let's start our discussion. But before we start the discussion, I have to say to panelists that each of you is given 5 minutes to answer my question. The first question I will convey to Mr. Gustafsson. Pak Gustafsson, we are talking about digital remote airport tower technology. Would you please explain what is this technology all about?
Well, thank you. And first of all, thank to both representatives from Sweden and Indonesia to allowing us to talk about my favorite topic, which is about remote and digital towers in this sense. You all know that at the airport, you've seen the towers. We have your air traffic controlled from the tower, which is a small part of the flight when you land and when you take off. This technology is about actually having the development in sensors. You see cameras, you have even your iPhones with our fantastic images, and combine that with other things you can have at an airport to overview and overlook it, like a radar or just anything you have, and then send that via telecommunication to a center. It could be at the airport, actually, if you don't want that, or it can be centralized depending on how far you are away, and allowing the air traffic controllers to work together, looking at screens instead of looking out. And then why should you do that? Well, of course, today, if you have a tower, you have to have your staff at the specific airport. You have to train them. If someone gets sick and they're not available, you have to maybe replace it, and that can be difficult. I'm not an expert, but I can imagine in the islands, like in Indonesia, you may have to have people transferred to them. By having the signal from the cameras in one place, you can allow more controllers to have the license for working with this airport, and if something happens, you have the redundancy of allowing that to control the airport from that location. And this started just by the sheer fact that how can we make things smarter, safer, more redundant, and also future-proof this industry a little bit. Digitalization is coming in all our society. And also the new generation of experts are used to use digital tools, and that creates another way of working. This information from the cameras can also be used actually for, let's say, the management to see what is going on at the airport, the fire brigade, the safety people, the airport management, everything. You can share this information to a wider network of people at an airport. And we strongly believe that this, as mentioned already, could be an enabler to grow, be safer and more efficient for Indonesians' amazing network of airports. It's the most network I ever encountered working on all over the globe with this. I also say that you mentioned ICAO, and I think this is an accepted technology. When we started 10 years more back, it was about convincing that this can be done. I think that is already done. It's work in ICAO, in regulatory bodies in Europe and in US, and also in CANSO, which embraces the navigation service providers. And I think is widely accepted and standardized. And I think that's a good ground for taking this further. From my perspective, we are working with countries in South America, Australia, Asia, Europe, and US with the same technology. And I think Indonesia has a very good chance of being sort of the front runner in doing actual implementation and showing the benefits of this technology. Thank you. Thank you. Hope that gives a little bit of light on this technology.
Okay. So would you please highlight the key benefit for Indonesia?
Yeah, I think the key benefit for Indonesia is the fact that you can have access to positive or air traffic control as more airports than you have today. You can centralize your staff and making sure they are well trained and can support 24/7 around the clock instead of having a large lot of people to do that on site. The cost for doing cameras instead of actual towers is, depending on the size of the airport, everything from 50 to 5% of a traditional tower. And I think also it gives you a chance to secure and monitor your aviation network to a very large extent, because that information will be available for all the stakeholders in the value chain.
Okay, thank you, Pak.
Thank you.
Now the question for Pak Sigit Hadiyanto. Pak Sigit, referring to the explanation from SHARP, what do you think the benefit of digital airport towers for Indonesia, Pak Sigit?
Thank you, Pak Wisnu, and also thank you to Pak Nicholas Gustafsson in providing elaborate information on the digital tower. Actually, as you can refer back to the keynote remark from our Director General, there are a lot of benefits that can raise from the implementation of digital tower. Not only to mention that this is also in accordance with the standard and recommended practices, and also has been trial in many countries. Indonesia has a diverse area and condition, and we also strongly support the cooperation between Indonesia and Sweden. Things to consider further is about the implementation in terms of setting up the proper regulation, as also being mentioned in the remarks of Director General of Civil Aviation, because the standard and recommended practices will only be applied after the implementing regulation and guidance has been also adopted in Indonesia. Furthermore, it also needs to consider the condition before and after the pandemic or during the pandemic that could significantly impact the result for the implementation of this. Furthermore, also it is need to consider the current situation with the NF Indonesia in terms of current situation, since the effect of COVID-19 also impacted a lot of aspects in the aviation sector. But all in all, further down the road, considering all the condition and the diverse situation in Indonesia, and Pak Wisnu also mentioned about the number of airports in Indonesia, this will be a good or quite positive development in terms of providing air navigation service in Indonesia, providing that all other aspects related to the development of the regulation and also the consideration of the current situation has taken into account. That would be my response, Pak Wisnu. Thank you very much.
Okay, terima kasih Pak Sigit. Now we turn to Pak Muhammad Katim from Airnav Indonesia. Pak Muhammad Katim, refer to the explanation from Mr. Nicholas Gustafsson and also Pak Sigit Hani as a Director of Air Navigation. In your opinion, what benefit do Airnav see for this technology and operating for small remote airport? Silakan.
Thank you, Pak Wisnu. Thank you, Pak Wisnu. Honorable Pak Wisnu, Pak Sigit Hani, Pak Niklas, and Bu Teni, and of course Pak Roni and Pak Kim Silender, and all of the attendees. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude and appreciation to the government of the Sweden, of course, the GCA Indonesia and committee for the invitation of an opportunity to participate in this discussion. Airnav Indonesia, as a single air navigation service provider in Indonesia, currently responsible for 291 airport throughout Indonesia. From high density airport category that has 100,000 movement per year until extra low density airport category with 1,200 movement per year, or equal with 100 movement per month. From those 291 locations, there are 25% locations which are provided aerodrome control tower services. and 75% locations are provided with aeronautical flight information service. Considering several conditions and challenges on some locations, such as a very few numbers of flights or extra low located in a remote area, so that we have difficulties to reach the location or due to the security issues in the location. Airnav Indonesia provides service for the location by implementing the traffic information broadcast by aircraft procedure or TIBA. Traffic information broadcast by aircraft procedure is implemented in order to maintain flight safety at those locations. At the same time, it is a strategy to provide services that more efficient, however, remain effective. For information, the traffic information broadcast by aircraft procedure is a flight operational procedure for aircraft that will land to and depart from an airport by determining and publishing a specified frequency for that airport. That's our explanation. This frequency will be used by pilot to communicate with other pilots which operate at that airport or area, including the procedures when and where the pilot must undertake the broadcast communication. By following the traffic information broadcast by aircraft procedure, aircraft operating at the airport will remain orderly, smooth, and safe. As a result of our evaluation currently, there are 169 locations or 58% of Airnav service location, which potentially to be implemented by traffic information broadcast by aircraft procedure. In regard of sub video presentation and explanation from Mr. Niklas related to the digital tower, I thank you for your sharing regarding this wonderful technology, of course, that has been implemented at several countries in Europe. I think this is good and sophisticated technology, and it might become an option for providing the air traffic services in Indonesia, of course. This technology still requires further proof of concept, whether the infrastructure and condition in Indonesia fully support the application of this technology. And regarding the benefit, it also must be elaborated how efficient this technology compare the existing condition, especially in the term of operational figure, especially in cost. How about the comparison? I think that's all for me, and thank you very much. I give back to Pak Wisnu as moderator. Thank you.
Terima kasih Pak Muhammad Katim. Thank you so much. Now turn to Mr. Kim Silander. Pak Kim, now I would Indonesia is very different country from Sweden. What were your findings on and how this technology could work in Indonesia?
Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for being here, excellencies and esteemed delegates. First of all, I would say I would like to start with that I've lived in Indonesia for approximately 10 years of my life. My two kids, children are born in Indonesia, one in Bekasi and one in Denpasar. We regard it as home. I miss rendang, I miss cengkol, I miss good food in Indonesia. Sambal terasi as well, that's something that I miss a lot. And maybe that is what's the biggest benefit of this, is that aviation in Indonesia is crucial for us to meet each other. Indonesia is not a small country. It's a massive country. It takes a long time to fly from one end to the other. It covers the size of the whole of Europe, more or less, in terms of airspace. And Airnav's role is very vital for people to meet in Indonesia. And I think now during COVID times, we see that we need to meet each other. We are missing each other in many ways. And I think this technology is actually an enabler for extending that reach. Today, many locations in Indonesia are limited with the operational hours they can operate. A lot of them have aerodrome flight information services only, which is not as safe as having a digital tower, which means that we can't provide the same level of security and safety for traveling to those destinations. So I think coming back to what Niklas said, it's a very, very good way to actually harmonize the working environment also for the controllers. So I think that is the most important with this, is to actually enable Indonesia to connect with each other and also the surrounding world from many of these locations, because the airports exist. This is a sustainability week. I would like to add a sustainability note to this. Building and constructing an air traffic control tower has a much, much higher CO2 footprint. So actually you build up a CO2 debt, so to say, when you build that type of infrastructure, than a digital tower. So it's actually a sustainable way of also building tower control in the future. For many of these places that don't have a tower, you can actually use digital tower instead of building these concrete colossus that we usually used in the olden days. So I think this is something that we should have a think about, and I think that matches today's topic quite well as well. So that's it.
So, Pak Kim, I ask you to underline so that airnav will confident in using this technology.
Yes, well, yes. For me, this technology enables safety. It enables a harmonized environment. If you're an engineer or you manage an engineering department in air now, the good news is that you don't have thousands of different equipment to maintain. You can easily train your engineers to maintain this equipment. So it's harmonization benefits. If you're on the operation side, you can train the controllers to work on multiple airports with similar equipment. So the training and transition to operations is much easier. So, and of course, don't forget ICAO Doc 4444, which is the Bible for controllers. It's compliant with that. So I land it with that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pak Kim. Pak Roni Normal from Ericsson. A concern would be security issues connected to unstable connectivity. We all know that the connectivity is not always stable. How can connectivity be solved for airports so there is 100% reliability?
Ya, thank you Pak Wisnu. Sebelumnya izinkan saya mengucapkan terima kasih. Thanks a lot, to be inviting in this forum. Yang saya hormati Pak Wisnu, kemudian Pak Muhammad Katim, Pak Ibu Teni, dan juga Pak Sigit, and of course Mr. Gustav and Mr. Kim. So in this occasion, Ericsson is very happy to work together with SAAP to provide the microwave network, which is a transmission network to bring the traffic from the remote location into the network operating centers. Whatever site that we are going to choose for that. So, and related to your question, Pak, we understand in this industry, reliability and safety is very critical. So we took this as our main consideration when we designed the transmission network, the highest reliability, in order to design the transport network to bring the remote traffic operation into the network operating centers. So what we come up with based on our desktop study, we create a ring configuration where we have primary and secondary link. By having this, if we encounter any faulty or network down or site down, this traffic will be routed from the primary link to the secondary link. By having this, we hope that we can have the highest reliability as possible in order to make sure the remote traffic operation in the remote location will continue to work, if any specific link connection on link down, within this ring configuration. And the reroute of traffic, we are hoping, and based on the experience that we have, it will be done in a fraction of a second. So traffic will not be disturbed, and the whole operation will continue to work during the event. But of course, we don't expect this. But this is the philosophy that we use when we do the desktop study for transmission network interconnecting this remote site to the network operating centers. Based on the network desktop study as well, we also try to use as much as possible the site location with easier access, in order to simplify the access to the site if we have any issues, and also reduce time for recovery process. So that's the philosophy that we have done, and hopefully by having this we can increase the reliability of this transmission network. Thank you, Pak.
Okay, thank you. Again to Pak Kim Silander. Pak Kim, your study also outlined a pilot project to get a proof of concept. Would you tell us more about what a pilot would look like?
Well, we often say a stepwise approach is always the best approach, and what we are meaning with the pilot project, which we are looking at Labuan Bajo in East Nusa Tenggara, is basically to build something that we can later replicate to other locations, to build some sort of a standard that we are confident will work in an Indonesian environment. So the study that we made, and I think now maybe this is even more airports, but we identified over 70 airports that could be linked to a digital tower, and of course that over 10 centers. But to do all those in one go would be very risky, because there is different environmental conditions in Indonesia that has to be considered, different challenges. We talked about communication here from Ericsson. So by doing a first test, or actually pilot project, I wouldn't say it's a test because we already proven the technology, but it's a pilot project. We can build something that can be easily replicable to all the other locations. And of course, the aim should also be to reduce the cost of the installations in the other locations. We can standardize the installation all over Indonesia. So that was the intent. And we thought Flores was a good location. It's also a location where we have actors, both AirNav, but we also have Angkasa present in that location. It's a touristic area, as we will know. If you want to see a Komodo dragon or a fantastic nature, this is the best place to go. So I think it will be
what kind of food there?
Actually, seafood. I say seafood for me. The grilled fish over there is fantastic. But I say that's one of my best experiences in terms of the nature. It's a magical island in many ways. And I think anybody that will be involved in that project will be happy with what they see, not only what they do.
Thank you, Pak. Pak Sigit Hadiyanto, as we had IBG recommend a pilot project in Labuan Bajo. What are your view on this as the next step?
Thank you, Pak Wisnu. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, actually. As I believe I have mentioned before, and also refer to the remarks from DG. On the next step from our side in the regulatory or from the oversight agency, we need to support that by developing the regulation necessary or the technical guidance necessary for the implementation of the digital or remote tower. As we also understand that the guidance from the ICAO is there, the standard and recommended practices from probably also from other countries is there, and to be able to implement that or to be able to use that in Indonesia, we need to have the supporting regulation infrastructure of technical guidance in order for the air navigation service provider can perform that in order with the same standard and same level of requirement as implemented in the international standard and recommended practices. That's the main view from the regulatory oversight agency, which is in this case DGCA Indonesia. Thank you, Pak Wisnu.
Terima kasih, Pak Sigit. Now to Ibu Teni Widurianti from Bappenas. Ibu Teni, would you share your view from Bappenas perspective on how a pilot project can be feasible to be included in the Blue Book?
Thank you, Pak Wisnu. Good afternoon, everybody. Pak Sigit, Mr. Niklos, Pak Muhammad Khatim, Pak Kim, Mr. Kim, Pak Roni. Thank you for the opportunity to share. I just heard about this proposal, this plan of projects. The question that Pa Wisnu raised, it looks that this is direction to go to the Blue Book. Yeah. Before I share about the Blue Book, I think the most important about the proposal of digital airport tower is how this plan is really aligned to our goal or the national strategies, especially the one who will own as the beneficiaries, which is Sigit, about this area. Actually, in Indonesia, if we have quite a lot of development area, including in terms of the projects that can be financed to several resources under our national budget. Actually, not only through the Blue Book process. When we are talking about the Blue Book process, meaning we direct this proposal to the loan project, the government loan. So we utilize the process, the mechanism of the Blue Book or the Green Book, which is the procedure to include the proposal into the foreign lending process. But I just heard that this is the importance of this pilot project is the most critical. So when we commit that this is really something strategic, aligned to our aim, target, especially what needs by the line ministry, in this case is the Ministry of Transportation, then we will find several potential resources to finance the projects. So the Blue Book is only one if we are talking about the lending, because we talk with the Sweden cooperation, it may be lead to the loan projects. So consider about this perspective. What can I say about the feasible, whether the pilot project is feasible to be included in the Blue Book? I think in general, Blue Book will cover the needs from line ministries, or the local government, to if they need sources of financing from loan. Then there are several areas to be assessed to include in this Blue Book. Of course, we do have the direction. Foreign loans prioritized for several areas, such as infrastructure, economic activity, social projects that have high leverage, transfer of technology, international best practice, and as you earlier mentioned about the replication, the activity through the national budget or the Rupiah budget. So that's the characteristic if we are going to apply for the foreign loan and go to the process of the Blue Book. And in the period 2020-24, the foreign loan project are focused to contribute to especially increase the private participation, private investment, leveraging the process, strengthening national connectivities, including also community empowerment, strengthening research, innovation, and technology. Include quite varieties of focus include in the foreign loan projects. But the most important is if this idea is part of the priority that needs to be supported, that we need a more strong base to have newcomers loans, newcoming loans. As you know, we have a very selective fiscal currently because situation of pandemic. We have very limited resources under our financial fiscal. Then we are very selective to choose which projects to be financed through loan. If this is the one of the very important, very urgent, and aligned to our priority, especially under the Ministry of Transportation, then we will assess to be support through the process of the Blue Book. Blue Book is the 5 years lending listing. Certain priority, certain criteria under the process of the Blue Book, and once the projects, the idea listed in the Blue Book, then the line ministry has to be very, very eager to have a more detailed preparation of the project. So that's the idea, Pak, to include in the Blue Book.
So, Ibu, what your advice for Airnav Indonesia or for the GCA about the digital tower technology to finance funding this project?
First of all, I would like to ask the Ministry of Transportation, the one who will be the beneficiaries, the one who will be the owner of the projects, if there will be a new proposal. There are the process that needs to be complied. The Ministry of Transportation has to propose. The Minister of Transportation has to send the proposal to the Bappenas to have the assessment process to include in the Blue Book.
Oke.
Ya.
Terima kasih, Bu.
Ya.
Terima kasih. Pak, kembali ke Pak Katim. Pak Muhammad Katim, as the implementing agency, what support would you need to move forward with the Labuan Bajo pilot project?
Thank you, Pak Wisnu. Just short, I think. Airnav Indonesia is as operator. We carry out all of our activities based on the applicable regulation in Indonesia, of course. We will run our services according to the regulation that have been set up by the regulator or by state. So I think what we need to move forward, the first is, I said before, first is regulation. Without regulation, we cannot develop a concept of operation of this program. And then before as Mr. Roni said, as with the microwave system, we need to make sure the readiness of infrastructure to support this technology in Indonesia, especially in Labuan Bajo, such as the microwave system and high quality of internet that Mr. Roni said, and security about the safety. And then as we will about availability resources to run the operational and maintain this facility. Of course, we need train, of course, about how to operate, how to maintain. I think that is our opinion from the Airnav Indonesia, Pak Wisnu.
Okay, thank you, Pak Katem. My question now for the last question for Bappenas, for Bu Teni. Bu Teni, Pak Sigit Hadiyanto, and Pak Muhammad Katem, respectively. We have now learned about this technology, the benefit for Indonesia, how it is feasible to implement, and how we can get started with a pilot project in Indonesia. We also heard from the Swedish Trade Commissioner how Sweden can support with funding. Would you agree to continue to work to initiate a pilot project as soon as possible? Bu Teni, maybe first.
Thank you, Pak. I recognize several items, 1, 2, 3, regulation, infrastructure, and budget for maintenance and operation that just mentioned by Pak Sigit and Pak Katem is very important, Pak. Because once we proceed the financing to these projects, meaning we have to assure that the project has to move and implementable and functional. Once the project finance, even though this is a pilot and in terms of the value is not that very big amount loan, but this is the government loan affect to our fiscal, where the government have a burden to repay and have a certain compliance for the terms and condition for the cooperation or the loan with the Sweden. Therefore, we have to assure that once we proceed, then the project has to moving. So if the issue of the regulation, infrastructure that just mentioned, as well as the operation maintenance cost has not be provided earlier, then will affect to the delay of the implementation of the project, meaning the loan of the government will not be efficient and not be effective, even though to support the pilot project. That's why we have to be really careful with the readiness, the capacity to implement, the readiness of the executing agency. In this term, in this case, will be Ministry of Transportation, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Pak. That's my comment.
Baik, terima kasih, Bu. Pak Sigit Hani,
Thank you, Pak Wisnu, and also thank you very much for the elaborative information from Ibu Teni. Actually, from our side, we commit to study further on the development of the regulation necessary to support this program. It will take into account the development of the international standard and recommended practices, also the current condition in Indonesia. I just also want to supplement the information from Ibu Teni regarding the beneficiary, because DGCA is actually a regulatory oversight agency. DGCA is not the one who's providing air navigation service provider. So in terms of beneficiary, if there is available lending for this project, the beneficiary will be the agencies who's providing the air navigation service provider. In this case, it will be more appropriate to address the beneficiary as to Airnav Indonesia. And I would like to also to resound the or echo the important point made by Ibu Teni that careful or deep studies or consideration needs to be taken into account to ensure that the sustainability of this project is not only into a pilot, but also for the further sustainability development of the implementation. Thank you, Pak Wisnu.
Terima kasih, Pak Sigit. Pak Katem, please, your turn.
Thank you, Pak Wisnu. Like Pak Sigit said before, as we all know that the aviation business in the last 2 years has suffered and affected all business players in the sector, including Airnav Indonesia, especially related to the height of the human resources and the company financial. So that we are very selective in carrying out the company's program and activities. In order to address this condition, we have developed a priority strategy to maintain our company's sustainability. For information, that our current priority is to maintain the current level of safety and service quality, so that the service are able to continue safely and well. Meanwhile, initiatives that are developing or implementing a new program or concept and potentially requiring large resources, both human and cost, will become the next priority, of course. Wherever the regulation, if the regulation and concept operation and also financial budgeting is available, Airnav Indonesia will do our best to support this program. But for the information, unfortunately, Airnav Indonesia for this time is even in the next year we have not have not the budget plan for this purpose. So I hope this could become a consideration. I think that's Pak Wisnu. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak. Now, my question to Saab and Ericsson. Suppose the project need your support. Are you ready for the pilot, Pak?
Maybe I can start, Ronnie. I think from Saab side, we've been working, as was introduced by Eric in the beginning, for I think it's a number of years now to look at a pilot and how a rollout can be done in Indonesia. So I think both the technology and the regulatory approvals, as was mentioned from the DGCA, has matured significantly the last year. So I think from a regulatory, even from the top, that can be transferred into national regulations is matured significantly. There are a number of products or Saab products that are available. So it's not testing or anything like that, as mentioned. It's a sustainable. The installation we are making now globally are there to be for 20 years and then more. And they are also being more diversified in same. There are for small airports and medium and large airports. So I think we are more than ready. We also have in Saab our Center of Excellence in Australia, which is expanding. So we will have our main base there and maybe also having a more presence in Indonesia. If this goes ahead, we are ready and also work with both Airnav, of course, which is a key player, as mentioned, the regulatory part and also the financial part to make sure that this technology provides the benefits to the end users, being the airport, being the passenger, being the Blue Book initiative on site. And I think that this sort of the fact that we're sitting here with Sweden-Indonesia collaboration is we've been actively supporting this from the industry side, and also working with Ericsson for us would be a very, very exciting and useful way of doing it, because we see that it could be replicated in Indonesia and other places as well. So from our side, yeah.
Okay. How about Ericsson?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Nicholas. Yeah, I think from Ericsson perspective, echo what Nicholas has mentioned. From microwave related, we have sold this product, to all major operators here in Indonesia. We have more than 100,000 units, being deployed in Indonesia. The technology is there. Technology is mature. We know how it works. We know how to operate and maintaining the network. And we are more than happy to support Saab in this case, and also try to, do this pilot in order to showcase that the network, as well as especially on the transmission network, can support, the remote tower implementation. So from Ericsson perspective, we are more than happy to support, and we are ready, to do that. Thank you.
Baik, terima kasih, Pak Norman. I have got one question now for Pak Katim. Pak Katim, does digital tower align with Airnav strategic planning going forward, align in context of digital disruption?
Thank you, Pak Wisnu. Ernaf, of course, we will be how about the digital in era of Indonesia? We will look forward, of course. But right now, we just try to hold to sustainability, the service, and we keep the safety and orderly flow, of course, because the condition right now. But Airnav Indonesia, we have a plan ahead, will be digitalized maybe, if we have got the comparison, how about the beneficial, the digital tower with the conservative tower like now. That I think, Pak Wisnu.
Baik, terima kasih. Thank you, Pak Katem. Now we come to the end of the discussion. We have discussed digital tower and their opportunity for implementation in Indonesia, benefit, technology, availability, and further steps. This technology is needed by Indonesia as a huge country to cover air traffic service in remote, underdeveloped, and outermost area. A feasibility study has been carried out. The technology is available there. The government will prepare the necessary regulation according to ICAO standard. And as we also had that Airnav Indonesia will follow up by taking the next necessary step. Considering the importance of digital tower technology to support connectivity in the ecosystem of air transportation, particularly in rural airports, which play a dominant role to stimulate regional economic growth. We hope our party will continue to work together to possible implementation of the digital tower in near future. We have at the end of our discussion, sorry if there are many shortcomings and mistakes in guiding this event, then I will leave it to Pak Erick Odar. Terima kasih, Pak.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Pak Wisnu, for your excellent moderation. And thank you to all panelist members for sharing your insights and perspectives. I have a long list of notes here and bullets to follow up, and I'm very much looking forward to do so in the months and year to come. It is clear that we have a very good collaboration ongoing, and personally, I am so much looking forward now to get started and continuing the work on this pilot program, so we can hopefully soon see this technology up and running in Indonesia. Having said that, it is now time for us to take a very short break before we come back to the next topic. So bear with us, grab a cup of coffee, take a quick break, and we will be back at 10:15 in Sweden and 4:15 here in Indonesia. See you soon. Thank you. Welcome back. Our next topic of discussion is something that can have a huge impact for millions of people in the capital of Indonesia. It is the electrification of Jakarta's bus system. As was announced by our ambassador earlier today, through Swedfund, Sweden is now preparing to fund a study that aims to support Indonesia in designing the specifics of the future electric bus network of Jakarta. And to discuss this in more depth, our panel will be led by Ibu Faela Sufa, who is Southeast Asia Director of ITDP, the Institute for Transportation and Development Policy. Through its technical and advocacy work, ITDP is instrumental to the continued development of Jakarta's BRT system and also heavily involved in other areas of sustainable transportation development of Indonesia. Ibu, you have the word.
Introductions. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to a panel discussions today, Smart Transportation, Transformation of Jakarta Public Transportation toward Electrification. My name is Faela Sufa. I will be the moderator for today's panel discussions. Jakarta is committed to reaching net zero emissions by 2050. Aligned with the target, Transjakarta intends to have a fully electric bus fleet by 2030. Swedish Embassy experience from electrifying public transportation and its technologies for charging infrastructure and EV buses can be a great use for collaboration to realize its ambitious vision of Jakarta. During SISP week last year, Sweden and Indonesia agreed to collaborate on realizing this vision, and work has since proceeded to outline areas where the Swedish experience, know-how, and technologies support. Sweden is in the final stages on granting a study to Transjakarta that will be set the stage for success in the transformation of Jakarta's bus fleet to an electrified system. During the panel, Sweden and Indonesia will discuss the continuations and seek to identify how to go from talk to action in developing projects that will be have a significant impact on the Jakarta public transport sector. Furthermore, the panel will investigate areas of focus, the offer study on bus electrification transformations. In today's sessions, we will have 6 panelists for this discussion with us. First, from Jakarta Transport Agency, Bapak Yaya Sudrajat and Bapak Ferdinand Ginting. And then second, Bapak Yoga Adiwinarto, Director of Engineering and Facilities Transjakarta. Before assuming duties in Transjakarta, Bapak Yoga served as Director of ITDP Southeast Asia region and has been involved in helping Transjakarta to transform its services and management institutions. The third panelist, Bapak Andi Otario Putro, Director of Mayasari Bhakti Utama. He is responsible for management portfolio, investment and business development and synergy of Mayasari Group. The fourth panelist, Ted Goranson, Managing Director Scania Representative Office Indonesia. He has more than 10 years of experience in transportation and more than 8 years experience in the Scania Group. Our fifth panelist, Rajesh Saha, Regional Director, Asia Pacific Rail and Urban Transportation of Hitachi Energy. He has 14 years of experience in substation engineering, international sales, power plant electricals, railways, traction power, and charging infrastructure for e-mobility. And then last but not least, Hans Own, Special Advisor to Swedfund. He is an independent consultant specialized in urban public transportations. Since 2017, he has been engaged as advisor to Swedfund to initiate and monitor consultancy project leading to sustainable public transportation. And then before we start our panel discussions, I would like to invite Bapak Safrin Liputo, Head of Transportation Agency, to take the stage to give a welcoming remarks. Bapak Safrin, waktu dan tempat kami persilahkan.
Terima kasih, Mbak Vela. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon us. Good morning and good afternoon. First and foremost, please accept our sincerest apologies that Mr. Governor, Bapak Haji Anies Rashid Baswedan, PhD, could not attend this event today, and therefore I, as the Head of Transportation Agency of Jakarta Provincial Government, will read the keynote speech on behalf of Mr. Governor as follows. Her Excellencies, Madam Ambassador Marina Berg, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, cities have a great role in providing a livable living environment for its inhabitants, since the most of the world population lives in cities. In this sense, many lives depend on urban areas development, and the city government is expected to provide sufficient services. Jakarta is a home for 10.1 million people that always welcome additional 4.4 million who commute to the downtime during the day, with an area of 661.5 kilometers square and surrounded by satellite cities. Long distance commutes of more than 30 until 40 kilometers are common in Jabodetabek, Greater Jakarta. That existence of commuter will have impacts on the development of the origin and destination. Ladies and gentlemen, today, Jakarta is on the front line of climate change and congestion. Jakarta losses per year reach $7.1 billion in productivity as a result of traffic and air pollution, since transportation is the main sector contributing to city air quality. Jakarta has committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 30% in 2030 and reaching net zero emission by 2050. We are consistently taking the lead to act for urban resilience and be a champion in the transportation and mobility sector. Therefore, Jakarta has shifted its paradigm from car-oriented development to transit-oriented development and become more compact city through urban regeneration. All are comprehensively incorporated into Jaklingko, an ecosystem of Jakarta integrated transport. The concept and future plan of Jakarta transportation will focus on this priority area environment. First, our most priority are pedestrians being able to walk safely and convenient to access places and public transport. We promote active mobility by developing and revitalizing infrastructures for pedestrians to give them pleasant experience while commuting. Second, the next one is to encourage any form of traveling with low emission vehicles, be it in form of bicycle, other micro mobility device, and electric vehicles. Third, public transport is on the third tier, and Throughout these last 2 years, we have been trying to improve the public transport system in Jakarta by developing intermodal infrastructure integration and other efforts for a more seamless connectivity between public transport modes, such as fare, ticketing, data, and institutional aspects. Fourth, the last year layer is the private motorized vehicle, which we apply push strategy to minimize its usage on the road by applying odd even plate, road parking, and parking management as restriction. Ladies and gentlemen, realizing how transportation sector has been the dominant contributor for worsening the air quality, the government of Jakarta has committed to limiting the use of conventional transport using fossil fuel and address our plan to transition our bus rapid transit fleet to electric vehicles. Our first initial short-term target is to begin deploying 100 units of electric buses in 2021 and 2022 and continue to develop with an implementation horizon of 2030. The commitment is in accordance with the President Regulation number 55 years 2019 regarding acceleration program for battery electric vehicles, which then in the provincial level, we follow up with several regulations such as applying free title transport tax for electric vehicle and establish air pollution control as one of the DKI Jakarta strategic projects and making it our top priority issue to resolve. I'm happy to say that the trial for electrical buses has almost complete in next December. And by then, we can further analyze in more detail all the technical, financial, and institutional or regulation point of view from various aspects such as vehicle and batteries, agencies and operators, and also the charging infrastructure. I must admit the journey is still long and will be bumpy here and there, but we must be brave to always challenge ourselves to improve better and confident that the LEAP program too, bus electrification are necessary and now is the very right time. Ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, I would like to say that although the COVID-19 pandemic trampled over our everyday life, it has also provided us with an opportunity to rethink and redesign our approach toward Jakarta urban mobility. We are committed to not slowing down. On the contrary, we have new confidence that Jakarta can change for the better, and it comes from the collaboration of society, academia, private sector, and the government. Jakarta, the city of collaboration, is both a tagline and embodiment of our mindset and efforts. Today is one of the true examples. Moving forward, we hope Sweden-Indonesian Sustainability Partnership can be a platform for elevating our perspective on sustainable transport, both in the pandemic era and the future times, plus leverage for further collaboration. Once again, I would like to thank Her Excellency, Madam Ambassador, for the partnership initiative. I truly believe that through collaboration, we can bring about much of the necessary sustainable improvement to better our home, our city, our planet. Let's learn from each other and let's move forward together for us, for the future, for our world, and for the children of our children. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Pak Safrin. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So although faces a lot of challenges, Jakarta is committed to start the electrification of its public transport buses start from 2021 to 2023. So without further ado, now for the final discussions, I would like to ask all of the panelists to turn on the video. And then for the audience, I would like to let you know that if you have any questions, please feel free to write your questions on the chat box below. To start our discussions, I would like to ask our first panelist, Bapak Yayat or Bapak Ferdinand Ginting from Transport Agency. So Bapak Yayat, I guess, could you share on Jakarta's ambitions and objective with the electrification of Jakarta's bus system?
Oke, terima kasih Mbak Vela. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening to all participants of the webinar. My name is Yayat Sudrajat from the Head Field of Road Transportation, DKI Jakarta Provincial Transportation Agency. And I apologize in advance if my English is not good. I'm sorry. What is the background of electric bus in Jakarta? In short, the objective of the electric bus is to regain control and improve the air quality. As we are aware, there are about 12 million vehicles operating in Jakarta. So how does the Jakarta Transportation Agency overcome this problem? Okay, slide 1. Shifting paradigm in transportation. The transportation development in Jakarta has always been car-oriented, as the high number of vehicles operating in Jakarta, more than 88 million trips occur per day, but the use of public transportation only takes 9.7% of it. Given this condition we face, the solution was always about construction of road, and this led to lack of use of public transportation. In addition, this caused to the unintegrated multimode transportation that's also affected by multi-operator, scattered feeder system, different payment system, and unconnected routes. Now and ahead, transportation development in Jakarta will be transit-oriented and digital-oriented. This development will be conducted based on the priority, wherein our first priority is pedestrian, by revitalizing pedestrian and bicycle facility as the connectivity of the first and last mile. Low emission vehicles are on our second priority, promoting the use of electric bus to substitute the conventional vehicle. The trial is currently being held. As for the use of electric bus as a pilot project in 2021 to 2022, we will procure 100 e-bus and will gradually transform all Transjakarta fleet by 2030 with about 10,000 fleet. The next priority is public transportation. We plan to improve the existing public transportation by integrating both vehicle and infrastructure, including integration in payment, ticketing and fare, and data as well. The last on our priority list is private motorized vehicle. Our strategy is to limit mobility of private bicycle, but not to limit the ownership of vehicle. The limitation will be carried out by doing traffic manipulation, including implementation of odd-even regulation, increasing parking fee, and electric road pricing, or ERV. We hope this kind of solution will reduce the number of private vehicles and promote the use of public transport. And then digital transformation and everyday lifestyle and transport sector to promote efficient mobility and service improvement. And then we need Jakarta Integrated Transport System, or by name JAKLINGO. Okay, slide 2. These are some supporting policies in the implementation of electric bus, regulation for e-bus. Okay, slide 3. Short, medium, and long-term target. For the short target in 2021, our target are complete the trial phase 2 and trial phase 1 and 2, followed by evaluation, procurement for 30 electric bus, identification on location for e-bus charging station, and further study on roadmap of vehicle electrification in Jakarta. And the medium target in 2022, our target are procurement for 70 e-bus, land provision for the charging station, evaluation on previous e-bus implementation, and improvement on service standard. And then long target after 2022, our target implementing e-bus for all Transjakarta fleet and transformation of existing bus to e-bus continuously. Next, slide 4. Challenge in e-bus implementation for vehicle and batteries. Technical challenges are need exploration on the detail, example, rank and power limitation of e-bus, factor affecting battery performance, e-bus, dimension for narrow routes. Financial challenges are high upfront capital cost of e-bus, lack of financing option, institutional and regional regulation challenges are plan to remove current bus stock, improvement on all aspects to enhance the progress of transformation. For agency and operator, technical challenges are adjustment of new operation and maintenance scheme. Financial challenges are the floating attractive financial management and business model. Institutional and regulation change are encourage and engage interest from operator. And then for charging infrastructure, technical challenges are lack of standard and regulation of charging infrastructure, lack of space and land to install infrastructure, need to study the most suitable charging strategies. Financial challenges are need especially electricity tariff for e-bus, the same as regular large capital expense for grid infrastructure, and institutional and regulation, limited planning for long-term implication. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I can say, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Yayat, for very comprehensive presentations. So the objective of the electrification overall is to reduce air pollution, and then they're also supporting regulations and also short, medium, and long-term target. And Pak Yayat also shared a list of challenges as well. Next panelist, I would like to invite Pak Yoga, who received mandate from the city government itself and also one of the key actors for this electrification. So to shift 100% electrified bus system with around 10,000 buses in like less than 10 years, that is very ambitious. So what do you think the challenges? Is it like the list challenges that Pak Yayat already shared with us is already stated there, or there is what is the main challenges for Transjakarta itself?
Yeah, thank you, Fela, for the opportunity, and also thanks for the Sweden Embassy to invite Transjakarta to share our experience, and hopefully, our aspiration and also our challenges can be, sort of captured. And and see if there is a collaboration that can be made between the Swedish Embassy and Transjakarta. So I think the easiest way to answer about the challenges is basically one, it's money. Not to try to be funny, but I think we are facing a lot of challenge right now, operational, human resource and everything, even though, like, and Payet already mentioned before, some of the infrastructure requirement that needs a lot of investment. I think Pak Andi can, further elaborate that, on the infrastructure and also investment. But one thing that we are projecting right now, we in the last sort of few months, with there is technical assistance also program that help us in sort of formulating this pilot project, and one of the finding that this TA produce is that we need a lot of financing support, and also change of the financial model. So for example, currently, all of this, because one thing for sure, to implement this electric bus is not Transjakarta who will make the investment. So all of the investment will be made by the operators, such as Maisari Bhakti and so on. So currently, all the business model that the bus operators contract with Transjakarta is through what we call the fleet financing, or like a vehicle leasing, where they borrow the money from banks, and then and then they provide, like, the down payment and so on. But we estimated that the requirement for the financing itself, like for example, the investment required for the fleet is already 2.5 times higher, and this is the price of the Chinese buses. So I cannot imagine if we have Scania buses coming, how much that we have to pay. I think that will be the best guy to answer it. Yeah, so I think like the 3 times higher investment is something that we need to be realistic, that it's not really feasible if we do it through sort of like like a fleet financing, because I think the amount of down payment, for example, 20% of the total financing, is something that not many operators have. I think Maisari is one of the very few operators that can afford the initial capex, for the down payment as well as the infrastructures and so on. But I think if you look at, because right now we have, I think more than 10, I think 11 bus operators, and then to work on this big bus and also medium bus. So if we ask them all to start investing or shifting into this electric bus, I don't think they all be ready to provide this kind of financing with the bank. So really I think the challenge for us is now, I mean, now yes, we are facing with a lot of challenges, but I think that's something that we can still manage, or at least we are trying to fix in the next sort of few months or a year with the pilot project. But yeah, but along the way, I think the financing itself is something that we need to anticipate if we want to become ambitious that 100% of the bus become electric in 2030. Thank you, Mbak.
Pak Yoga, so I think I want to dig more. So in terms of this SWET fund itself, so this is like technical assistance. So like, is it like the support that maybe like we can give to Transjakarta is giving like financial business schemes studies or options, or is that any like specific area, maybe like for purchasing the electric bus or charging infrastructure, or I don't know, the grid incentive from the government. So is it like overall financings? Because like, as I understand that besides procuring the bus, so the operators would also provide the charging infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, if we have, if we can be provided, technical assistance with all the things that you mentioned, that'll be great. That'll solve, many of our headaches. But if if you have limited time and also resources, so right now, again, we will be, as Pak had mentioned, we will be focusing on this 30 fleet, 30 buses. This is kind of like, yes, it's only 30, but it's a giant step for Jakarta as well as Transjakarta. So we will be using what we call the most, I wouldn't say simple, but like in the most available technology, which is the the low entry 12-meter battery powered overnight charging bus. So basically these are really the most common electric bus available right now. So in terms of the infrastructure, it is quite a high investment, but at least we can sort of contain it. So just put all the charger in the operator's depot. So in terms of the the grid and everything, that is quite simple to manage. But when we want to shift into a larger system like the BRT, with this 250 to 300 kilometers of daily range, so we need sort of like a higher or more advanced technology, especially on the charging infrastructure. So the charger types, for example, the opportunity charging, and also the putting the where the chargers are. We do need that as well in terms of the technical things. But again, I mean, it doesn't really answer all the bigger issue, which is basically the financing itself. I think there are really a good opportunity for us to ensure that the affordability and also availability of the electric bus for the bus operators are there. So yeah, so again, just to give you an illustration, if we are to procure, like for example, 5 billion rupiah. I'm sorry, my math now is not really working because I've been on the meeting with the with the BOD for like a day. So let's just say I don't want to convert right now in the US dollar, but for example, 5 billion rupiah, then we hire, like putting like 100 bus, then will require like 500 billion rupiah. So 20% of that will be like 100 billion cash. So this is clearly not all of the operators, as I said, like maybe my salary can afford this, but like 100 billion by cash to be as an initial capital cost is really high. So if we change the scheme into sort of like a in terms of the instead of the fleet financing, but more like a project financing, putting the investors and everything in that. I think that will be more suitable. So the bus operators will do, will basically run the system and do what they're best, basically, operating the system, managing the buses and also maintaining the bus. But we do have the, investors, as a financial backers. But the scheme, I think we need some assistance on what is the best scheme, to work on that. So for example, what is the contractual arrangement between Transjakarta and the bus operators? What is the sort of, guarantee that Transjakarta, can give to the operators, as well as the investors? So those sort of things I think will be interesting for us to learn and also to develop, in the next, year or so. So then when we start, putting more buses into the system, then more operators can afford, and also, our goal to have, let's say, 5,000 bus, 10,000 bus over the next 5 to 10 years will be possible.
Thank you, Pak Yoga. So I would move on to Pak Andi Otario. So how about from the bus operator itself? Are you agree with Pak Yoga's mention?
Thank you, Bu Vela. Thank you, Pak Yoga, before, and all audience, and thank you for the Sweden's embassy that held the webinar seminar. As Pak Yoga mentions, we have some points that we have to prepare and to face about the challenging of the electric buses. First, for us, and also for the other bus operators, is the new technology, new challenge, new opportunity, and of course, there is a new uncertainty in the futures. Because we usually operate with the internal combustion engine from diesel, and also we have a diesel and CNG, and now we have to move to electric vehicle. This is the first conditions, and of course, the first condition is very influenced to us as a bus operators, because we have to change our cultures and our habits, how to manage or how to operate from the diesel buses to electric buses, because we have many challenges about that. And the second, we as Pak Yoga mentioned, that we have in discussion about the contracts, and we will face about the 10 years contracts, and also there is a deviation between the contract itself and the guarantee of the battery, and of course we have also the uncertainty of the battery and technology development for the electric buses. And hopefully, if clear from the transport agency and also Transjakarta, but if in the future we move forward to the electric bus, I think it's better and support to green environments, because now we have, if after we have the operate the e-bus, we have 3 kinds of the model of the buses. We have diesel buses, we have CNG buses, and also the electric buses. So we have to understand to prepare about the roadmap of the energy that we can use in the buses. And the second important things, as Pak Yoga mentioned, also from the transport agency, we have the high investments, because we have to buy a buses with the, now we have BYD buses, and some buses from China buses, and also some the dealers is new dealers that operate or sell the buses. And as mentioned by Yoga, the price is around 5.1 billion rupiah. And then secondly, we has also to invest in the charging system. Charging system, it's related to the PLN here, and also is related with the charging station, which related to brands of buses that we can use. And the third that we have to consider is limitation of the area of our depot. Why we consider about the area of depot is the limitations, because we cannot combine or make in the one parking area between diesel buses, CNG buses, and also electric buses. especially in we have to invest in the charging system, but it takes more area in our pool, and we have to consider carefully about this. And related to the investment, it happens to the working capital. We need a more working capital because based on the calculation, we have to build a charging system with a 2.5 million megawatt, and then it will happen to the fixed cost, increase our fixed cost in the operation.
Andy.
And then the important things, yeah.
If I may questions for the investment, what is the highest investment now? Is it like on the fleet or on the charging infrastructure?
Actually, now for the fleets is the price is per unit is 5.1 billion rupiah. And then the second is charging system, and it depends on the system that we can use, and that the price is around 9 billion until maybe 12 or 13 billion if we have developed. And also, Bu Fela, for the charging system, we have to consider about the futures of the brand that we can use. For example, like Scania, who attends in this meeting. For example, Scania, we buy the Scania buses. All, not us, maybe the bus operators. And then we have the Scania buses, we have the BYD buses, for example, and Zongtong buses, or Higer buses, or Mercedes buses. And we don't know about the charging station or charging plug-in. That is, if different technology, I think it's not efficient for us to develop the charging system that can suitable with the technology in the futures. And of course, that Pak Yoga has mentioned, we need other party support. For example, first for the bank, for the investor or the leasing company, for them is a new kind of the buses, and of course the risk mitigation is more difficult for us to fulfill. And of course, for Mayasari, I think it's work capex is a limitation, and that's the problem of all of the bus operators. And the secondly, that we have until now we haven't yet understand how support the PLN, if about the tariff, about the subsidy, how about the investment, because we have invest to take from the grid to our generator or genset and everything to become our charging station. And then we have also limitation and new for the human capital to operate and to manage the e-bus, and our uncertainty about the technology changes. We don't know after 2 or 3 years how about the battery that we have in our existing buses. Maybe the battery is changed, and then our buses become obsolete, or I don't know about that. And of course, the implication of the investment, implication of the payback period of our investment. And the fourth important thing is the operations and payment is very interesting. And I agree if Pak Yoga can support about, for example, like minimum payment from the Transjakarta, or per kilometer that we Transjakarta have to pay to the operators, because for the bank or the finance company is very important how to repayment the principal and interest. And of course, the account receivable management is important, so Transjakarta can pay more timely, and bank and administration support. And the last is about the collaborations. I think we have to move forward to the electric bus, but we need carefully, and we have to do calculate risk about the investment, and every party involved in this area has understanding each other, because it's not just you operate the buses and then after that there is no the level of operation is low, and the implications, the impact directly to the bus operators, and it's difficult for us to absorb the risk or the loss about that. Thank you, Bu Faila. This is the condition.
Pak Andi. So Pak Andi has shared the challenge from the operator side. sites for uncertainty on technologies, and also the high investment, which include limitation on the depot and high capital investment on the buses, and then support needed from other parties like bank as well, and uncertainty on the technology, which will bring on the human capitals limitation as well, and operation and also payment support from Transjakarta. So I will move to
there is important thing. Sorry, Bu Vela.
Yeah?
Also, you can conclude about the PLN support is important thing for us.
Mm-hmm.
Electric company PLN.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you, Bu Vela.
Terima kasih, Pak. Thank you. So, yeah, Rajesh, are you with us?
Yeah. Thank you. I think I was hearing to Andy in a very careful way. I think whatever the let's say issues raised by Andy is quite common. Whenever we see all the other countries also, the majority either transport operator or the government is always, everything comes and stops at the finance, right? What is the payback period? What are the IRR? And how much is the ridership? So I think the whole system has to be kind of to be studied. One is on the technical front, right? Because it's like you need to be planned that really it's not about putting more and more buses, because if you put more and more buses, then again it is a capex issue. So you need to see how to make the buses more available on the road, not on the charging depot. So that we can utilize those buses on a more continuous basis. And for that, I think we should basically have a kind of study how to, on the technical point of view, because if we can make our charging how many time period shorter, and we can make the buses more available, and that will also reduce the burden of capex on a more number of buses. On the part like what Pak Andy was mentioning, and also Pak Yoga, that about the investment, for example, for my company, let's say Hitachi, we also have modules to issue to address those types of issues, like electric bus as a service, or battery as a service, or charger as a service. So basically, where we co-partner with the operators, and then we design a particular financial model, and then we can discuss. So there are possibilities to address those challenges. Of course, I think the key is ridership. If you have the ridership, then yes, there is a possibility to that. On the grid side, I think it is very important to get the grid support, because if we do not plan well, and if the operators plan the depot in a random way, where you do not have a grid connection of let's say 2.5 megawatt or 4 megawatt, then you will end up in a challenge like you cannot expand your depot, right? And another thing what I saw is the majority issue is that the space, because if you see the major cities, the space is very limited, and if you want to keep your main area for parking, so the charging design, especially the layout of the charging infrastructure, should be planned in such a way so that they can really utilize the limited space for making a small substation and bring the grid. So I think there are answers to what let's say concern of Park Yoga, and we can we as from Hitachi Group, we are really very much interested to support on the financing and acting as also a consultant for charging or.
Okay, thank you, Rajesh. So next is I will ask Ted. So one of the challenges that what can you bring on the table for this challenge that Transjakarta has?
Thank you, Rafaela. Thanks for the invitation from Team Sweden, and good to be here with very knowledgeable panelists. I think a couple of things to mention here. I think Mr. Rajesh mentioned one of them, and that is to make sure that the buses that are operating are maximizing the time out on the road, or as we in Scania call it, maximize the uptime, the time that they're driving. Because if you're able to maximize the use of the buses, you need fewer buses. So if you have a bus breaking down very frequently, you need a higher number of buses to do the same transport job. So I think that's a very important point mentioned by Mr. Rajesh. When it comes to the capital investment, for sure, I mean, it is one of the major changes in the business model. And as we said here, it's very high initial investment, several times that of a diesel bus. And I think Payoga also mentioned two important things here. One is project financing, and one is looking over the financial model or the operational model between Jakarta and operators like Mayasari. When it comes to project financing, I think, for example, we can utilize the Swedish export credit system with SEK and EKN, where we have sovereign funding normally available with favorable interest rates as well. I think especially for projects where we're talking about these kind of shifts towards sustainable transport. And us from Scania, we also have a lot of experience working with these parties and providing this kind of project financing. So that's one point. And the operational model that Payoga mentioned as well is something definitely to look into, because yes, the initial investment is much higher. But what we see in more and more countries with electric buses is that the total cost of operation over the lifetime of the buses, even though the initial investment is higher, the total operating economy over lifetime is lower. But it's a time lag, so you need to increase the investment up front, but it pays off over time. And by the end of the service life, let's say 10 years, then it's very often that an electric bus is cheaper per kilometer than a diesel bus. But one thing also important mentioned here by Andy is the batteries. It's a new technology. It's a lot of new uncertainty. And of course, batteries is, I would say, the major cost when it comes to electric buses. So making sure that you have the right batteries, they are maintained properly. They are, once the service life is finished, you take care of them, you might find a second life for them and so on. That's also something critical. And there I also think that OEM suppliers like Scania, we have a very big responsibility to support our operators to make sure that batteries are maintained properly and taken care of during the whole lifetime. So I think my colleagues here have already mentioned a lot of good initiatives. And from Scania, we have experience of exactly these kind of questions and are very much willing to support in any way we can.
Yeah, thank you, Ted. So next is for Hans. So Hans, given what you have heard about the challenges and then with your experience as a special advisor on the bus project across the world, what is your perspective on the possibility areas to investigate?
Well, the SWED Fund concept is to finance and support studies that can have an impact and lead to real implementation or something. I know, I heard and I read about this bold project in Jakarta, which is of course a very big challenge. Swedfund is able to support in setting up a study. It would be totally financed by Swedfund, and there will be no strings attached. It wouldn't be tied to any Swedish deliveries or anything like that. And the study would be owned by the recipient, which I imagine in this case could be Transjakarta. So there would be a contract between an international consultant team and Jakarta to undertake the study, but Swedfund will pay for the invoices. It wouldn't even have to be Swedish consultants. It could be an international and local team, which best corresponds to your needs. I think maybe there are two possible ways to structure such a study. One way could be a broad approach, try to sort of understand all the issues which are, as I hear now, are technical issues, there are institutional, there are financial issues, maybe even legal issues, and there is the problem of implementation strategy. Should it be route by route? Should it be operator by operator, depot by depot, or so? So Swedfund a Swedfund study could try to encompass all of these aspects and take into account all the different stakeholders. But then it would be, let me say, a more shallow study. The other alternative would be to select one or two or more important problem areas and go deeper into those. And I think that is what we need to discuss the Jakarta and see how we can structure it in the best possible way. I would like to add also that Swedfund is under the Swedish government, but there is very little red tape in Swedfund projects. It doesn't have to take years to come to a decision on what to do and procure the consultant team to start doing it. It could be very quick. The only thing to remember is that, of course, Swedfund has limited resources. It would be one study, not maybe a commitment for several years, at least not in the beginning. So I think the best now would be a dialogue between Swedfund and Jakarta to shape the study, formulate scope and objectives and terms of reference. So that's my input at the moment, I think.
Thank you, Hans. Yeah, so maybe Pak Yoga and other stakeholders to continue these discussions and then to conclude what is the support that Swedfund can give it to Transjakarta. We need to have like more discussions or intense discussion whether it's going to be like financing mechanism scheme study that Pak Yoga already suggested to us or others. I will like come to the Q&A session because we have like a very limited time here. Yeah, we have a question from YouTube to Dishub and Transjakarta. Maybe for Pak Yayat and also Pak Yoga, what are the plans attract people to use public transportation more, especially now that there is also an incentive to buy cars or exemption tax? Pak Yayat or Pak Yoga can answer it first.
Oh, well, I think Pak Yayat is probably better to answer that as a regulator of the transport. But from our perspective is that, we just keep, delivering the service and also providing reliable service with the our partners, bus operators and so on, and also having a good reliable buses such as Scania. I think Scania's buses also quite takes a lot of population in our system, so that's why I think really good reliable public transport, as well as expanding the outreach. So for example, right now, at least 83% of the population in Jakarta, they live within 500 meters walking distance from the every Transjakarta bus stop, and that really helps. So the goal is to have 95% of the area, or sorry, 95% of the population live within the 500 meters from our bus stop or bus station. So we believe that at least from our side, from public transport operators' perspective, this is the way to go. Obviously, I think from the transport agencies or the government's perspective, there are other a lot of things. I mean, yes, there are tax exemptions, there are some of the fiscal incentives, but that's only for the to create incentive for the ownership. I mean, as you can see, and also as you probably know, that Jakarta, in a way, it's kind of it's already a bit harsh on the vehicle usage. So we have the out and even plate and license plate policy. I think that really helps to reduce the usage. Maybe not necessarily the ownership of the vehicle itself, but at least the usage of the private vehicles. And I think a lot of disincentives, like creating a lot of parking, higher parking fees and so on. But again, I mean, that's not really our authority as Transjakarta. So at least from our part, and also with the bus operators supported by the bus manufacturers, we just want to make sure that we provide a good standard for the passengers and also general public in Jakarta.
Okay, Pak Yayat.
Yeah. Basically, our strategy right now is to integrate it and make our public transport seamless. We also the flow the first and last mile mode the bicycle or by free microtrans. On the other side, of course, there is an incentive on the ownership of car. However, we restrain the use of those private vehicle with many strategies such as higher parking fee and even out policy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Yaya. So we have more question for Scania. That what is Scania's view on the possibility with a sweat fund study?
We fully support it, of course. I mean, as Hans mentioned, there are no strings attached. So, I mean, for example, Scania would not have a stake in the study, so we would be not directly impacted by the study. But we would highly recommend it. We see in other markets where Swedfund has conducted these kind of studies on public transport. It has led to successful projects. And also, I mean, I think the network of Swedfund, when it comes to international consultants, as Hans also mentioned, not necessarily Swedish, I think there is a wealth of knowledge. And as Pandi mentioned as well, I mean, one of the keys here is collaboration. And because this technology is so new in many parts of the world, I mean, if we could utilize the competence that has been built up in different countries from these consultants, I see just a very big benefit of that. So from our side, even though we don't have any stake in the study as such, we fully support it.
Thank you, Ted. And we have one more question from Miras. I think it's for Rajesh. So I would suggest on comprehensive study involving charging infrastructure. So do you have any comment on this?
Yeah, basically, I fully support this idea, what Mr. Hans was mentioning, because this overall strategy for charging is a very key for when you are planning this transformation from the diesel vehicle to electric, because this is not about only bus. This also have to plan your charging infrastructure, grid, location, space. So a comprehensive study, or if it is as proposed by Sweet Fund, will really help to sort out many challenges which has been highlighted by the operator as well as Jakarta. So I think this many countries are already have conducted or conducting this study, so that when they go for a larger fleet, like what I see as Jakarta plan of 10,000 vehicles by 2030, so that they will not face the challenge. So this will prevent all those hiccups which generally people feel or face once they go from 10 to 100 and 100 to 1000. So I fully support it, and yes, it will be really fantastic for Indonesia as well as Tanzania.
Okay, thank you. Maybe the last question for Pak Yoga. As we know that Transjakarta currently receive several technical assistance, including from ITDP. So what is your highest expectation from Sweat Fund to make use of it? Because you mentioned that I don't want a paper anymore. I want to like a real actions. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think all the technical assistance that we are currently having or we already had, focusing on the action itself. But again, I mean, yes, I don't want to. I mean, Transjakarta, we don't want to have any just like a study. We want to have some plans to be implemented. So I think there is a difference between like a study where it's good to to have this and that, but there is a plan or a concrete plan. So regardless of what the the objective or the area or the topic of the TA, the technical assistance, I think the best way is to make sure that the recommendation is implementable. Whether it can be implemented in like 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, but I think once the document is ready, we as a company we have a strong basis or a strong foundation, because many of the study that we that we use, we actually use it as the basis. So for example, for reference, when we calculate the the TCO, for example. As I actually, sorry, just to respond on Pat's comment, I think I totally agree. I mean, all the studies and all the recommendations on the TCO, the total cost of ownership, suggest that having the electric vehicles or electric bus, is really low in terms of like basically cheaper than the diesel bus. But I have to say that to achieve that kind of TCO, we need to start the investment. So currently, again, as I said, because we only start with the 30 buses per operators. We don't see this as a big hurdle for us, but if you want to achieve this, like 100 per operators, or like in our plan, 10,000 vehicles, and this 10,000 vehicles not only just the big bus or the mini bus operators. This is basically this all will also include the sort of minibus operators, the cooperatives, individual owners, for example. So, what is the right financing scheme, financing model between us and the operators? I think that will be the sort of like contractual model. But between the operators and the finance, the financier, what will be the best, sort of scheme? So. Having the just a traditional financing, fleet financing, where the operator only buy the fleet, and then the bank would then just provide the sort of like the financing or the credits, and then they pay like 20% or 30% of the down payment. I really doubt that will create a sustainable business model. So again, I think the initial setup cost is something that we have to overcome. As a pilot project, there is no issue on the financing. I mean, as Andy mentioned, yes, Maesari probably face this issue, but again, I believe they have the capacity, the financial capacity, to deliver this 30 bus of the electric bus. But when we start, gradually shifting this electric buses and also adding more, when the number become 200, 500, even like 1,000, for example, then my guess is that maybe they will also face this kind of difficulties on how to create the fresh money, to start investing in this down payment. So again, we can have a more sort of closed door discussions or in-depth discussion. I really welcome any sort of one-on-one discussions on this to further elaborate. But if I can make any sort of like a remark, that will be the preference for us to move forward with the SWET fund assistance. Thank you, Pella.
Thank you, Pak Yoga. Maybe I want to have Hans to comment on this, on the concrete plans of technical assistance. Hans, what is your comment?
Well, as I say, I mean, SWET fund is prepared to assist in both in preparing the study and participate in the follow-up of the study. So all we need is to try to decide as quickly as we can what it should encompass. And I agree very much that it shouldn't be an academic study for the bookshelf. It should really be something that helps the implementation. I think this is an area where we can see a lot of development. So one of the issues I would think is important is that decisions and implementations that are made now should be, you should not lock yourself into something. You should have actions that preserve and maintain flexibility so that you can benefit from the probably fairly quick development in all the technical aspects that is coming. So whether we should aim this study on business model, which is very interesting, or technical issues, I don't know at the moment. But I think we should have a dialogue with Jakarta on that.
Okay, thank you, Hans. Yeah, because we don't have any more time. Thank you for all of panelists for the fruitful discussion. This is the end of our panel discussions. Thank you all. And I will hand over to the Master of Ceremony. Thank you all. Good morning and good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you, Fela.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Bufaila.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ibu Faela, for your excellent moderation, just like last year. And thank you to all panelist members for sharing your insights and perspectives. I think this was a very good discussion. It is clear that this is a complex project with many different areas that remains to be assessed. Here we discussed everything from the fact that there is a high CapEx investment needed, and then also going forward that the whole financial model will need to be reviewed. We've touched upon the HR issues that will be needed to look into. We've talked about the grid. The operator mentioned the need for PLN support. And then we've also, from several different perspectives, heard about the importance of actually making a long-term plan. So Jakarta is not locking itself into a infrastructure that cannot be expanded upon until the very 10,000 units that actually is the big picture. I think Yoga put it very clearly that it is important here that the work that we do together going forward is about making the specific plans for action and not just technical studies. And we also heard Hans here concluding that this is very much the same thinking that we have from the Swedish side. So just like you invited here, Pak Yoga, for us to do a follow-up discussion with more on a closed-door one-to-one discussion where we really sit down together and look at all of these issues and nail down the specific scope of the study, this will be the very best way to do this. So we're very much looking forward to continuing this journey together towards an electrified bus system in Jakarta. Having said that, we are coming to the end of the day. Tomorrow, we will move on to the energy sector. And then we will discuss the very important issues of transformation to green energy and improved grid quality in Indonesia. Joining us then is the governor of West Nusa Tenggara. This is a planned focus area for renewable energy development. And then also joining us is the Director General of the Swedish Energy Agency. And what will follow from this is the launch of the SISP Renewable Energy Alliance. This is a new long-term program where an alliance of Swedish solution providers for renewable energy will work together with Indonesian industry stakeholders to accelerate the development of green energy production and infrastructure in Indonesia. On the Indonesian side, we will hear from organizations like the Indonesia Smart Grid Initiative, Arya Vatala Capital, PLN, and several government representatives who will all share their perspectives on the energy sector, and they will work with us to define how to best utilize this SISP Renewable Energy Alliance for a successful, sustainable development of Indonesia. So we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, this then concludes our session for this second day of the Sweden-Indonesia Sustainability Partnership Week. I want to thank all of the government representatives from both countries, the companies that has joined us today, and the topic experts from organizations both in Sweden and Indonesia. Until we see you again tomorrow, we wish you a great continued day and evening. Thank you all.